Thank you for everyone coming today, supporting us. So give yourselves a round of applause. Right, Bianca, over to you.
So I thought we'd kind of start by giving you guys a bit of a background as to why we're here today and why we created Self-Made. So to give you a bit of context about my personal journey, I believe I was born to be an entrepreneur. So on the 23rd of December 1988 in Mayday Hospital, Croydon, an entrepreneur was born. That's me. And I started by kind of setting up shop in my bedroom, play till and all, and I started selling things, mostly paintings. They weren't very good. I'm no Picasso, unfortunately. But I made lots of great profit because my parents provided all the resources and they bought anything I created. And then at the age of about 12, I had a love of dance, and in particular street dance. And I started thinking, how can I monetize this? As you do, age 12, clearly. So I went to a local primary school and I said, I'd love to teach your kids dance. They said, no problem. I said, here's my invoice. Then I hired a few friends to help me, obviously paying them significantly less than the invoice, profit being very important. And then at the age of about 17, I wasn't allowed to go out to parties legitimately because my parents were quite strict. So I thought, how can I get out? So I started doing under 18s parties. I managed to do about 3 before my parents said, can you stop trying to make money and actually concentrate on your education? So I finished my A-levels, I went to university, I did a business management economics degree. I started working in the city for a company called Accenture. And I realized at that point that we had an issue at Accenture. We had graduates who were academically very intelligent, but weren't necessarily very good at understanding the importance of personal branding. So they didn't really understand how to communicate, network, dress appropriately, and so on. And I thought I'd love to be able to help them. So I started an initiative called Preparing for Promotion, helping them understand how to brand themselves to be more successful in their career. And then after about 2.5 years at Accenture, I kind of had that itch. I felt like, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wasn't fulfilling my dreams there at the organization as much as I was having a great time. So I left and went into recruitment, thinking it was a great way for me to make money, but also to explore a new area. But I realized quite quickly that I hated recruitment. So I loved the interaction with candidates. I loved being able to help them, but I didn't really enjoy some of the other elements of recruitment that I had to endure. But it was one day I had a light bulb moment. I had booked someone in for an interview for recruitment for a job in accounting. It was £1,000 a day accounting job. And the person came in and they were dressed in an Arsenal tracksuit. Now, for clarity, I support Arsenal. Any other Arsenal fans in the room? I know we're not popular right now, but not at the moment. No, I know. I'm sorry. I'm not a glory hunter, so I still support them. But it's still not acceptable to turn up for an interview in an Arsenal tracksuit. I think we can all agree. And that was the moment where I decided I would start my first business in personal branding. So fundamentally, I go out and I help people understand the impact and importance of their personal brand, how to communicate, how to network, how to build themselves. That was really weird. I'm now very echoey. Can everyone else hear me okay? Yeah? No? A nod at the back would help. Yeah? Oh, amazing. Okay. And so that was my first business. So I started that back in 2012 and went on to, have amazing clients. So EY, Accenture, PwC, Mercer, Barclays, HSBC, and so on and so forth. Well, now you're awake. That was kind of my first business. And then obviously I went on to The Apprentice. So for those of you who watched it, for those of you who didn't, it's okay, you didn't miss much, I only came second. So I went on to The Apprentice and pitched this idea to redefine nude hosiery. I had been irritated by the fact that I couldn't get tights to suit my skin tone. I looked around and saw women of all ethnicities and backgrounds unable to get the right hosiery product too. And that's what led me to my second business. So why am I telling you this story? Well, the reason why we created the book really was to help entrepreneurs, to help people who were wanting... You can't hear me. Can't hear anything, Luke? Luke? We have nothing. I can project, but I don't know if that would help. It's back? Is it back? Yes? People at the back? A thumbs up? Okay, amazing. So Where was I? So writing the book really was to help other people on that journey. And I'll let Byron explain his journey some more, and then we'll explain kind of how we got to know Mike.
Tech.
You start talking. Can you hear anything?
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Well, you can hear Byron. So look, I'm going to pass on to Byron so he can tell you a bit about his journey, and then we'll explain how that led us to writing the book.
Excellent. Thank you. So I grew up in one of the largest council estates in Europe. Everyone I know pretty much is dead or in jail, unfortunately. And I always knew that there was a path for me, because when I was in school, I would sell sweets. When I was in college, I would sell CDs. And when I went to university, I was trading in cars, buying and selling cars. I managed to buy my first property at the age of 21. And if I fast forward to pretty much what I'm doing now, I am the CEO of the BLC Group. Within the group, there is a construction recruitment company. We turned over something like 3.5 million the first year of trading. I'm the managing director of a luxury chauffeur business. So within our fleet, my personal fleet includes a number of Rolls Royces, Bentleys, Range Rovers, so on. And I'm a school governor because I strongly believe in trying to encourage entrepreneurship and developing the future leaders of tomorrow. So I'm a school governor. I work with Greenwich University also in terms of its mentoring program. So that gives you kind of a short synopsis of my journey and where I am today. And of course, we have the Self-Made book. I've worked probably as an entrepreneur for the last 13 years, and that's from starting, growing, and scaling multiple businesses, and also selling a number of my own personal businesses and helping others sell theirs. So Self-Made has been kind of a perfect fit for myself and Bianca, in terms of putting our experiences together and helping others develop themselves and create themselves a sustainable business. Whether they're interested in selling it or not is up to them. So that's kind of a short synopsis of my journey and where I am today. I guess one of the main reasons for writing the book was to help people along their journey. I've made a number of mistakes over the years which people shouldn't have to make. So we've put all our experiences into this book. And also, when we go and do talks, we find that the questions that people are asking are ultimately the same. So people are asking us the same questions. We said, well, how come there's no, why are people asking us these questions? So we said, well, we're going to put it together in a book and make it easily achievable, and people can read it anywhere they like. So as you know, it's available in most high street retailers, so it's an easy takeaway. So this book is really for the people to just have as a takeaway tool, whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. So whether you're in your corporate and you want to look at personal branding or networking, this is still something for yourself as well. But also for those entrepreneurs who are starting or in the beginning journey, this is also for you. So that's one of the reasons why we wrote the book.
And I think what's interesting about the book is, obviously it's called The Guide to Startup Business, but the reality is there are so many steps within the book that concentrate on aspects that are required throughout your business journey. So things like marketing, networking, building a personal brand, selling, and even preparing your business for sale. So not everyone wants to sell their business, but the reality is that if you prepare your business in the right way from the outset, you're going to be in a better position when it comes to that point where you might be approached or you might make that decision to make a sale. So we really wanted to provide that level of detail and insight without it being so large and so cumbersome that you don't want to read it. We wanted it to feel like a conversation between friends, like kind of like a pocket mentor, in that you could pick it up, find a chapter that is relevant to you at that stage of your business, work on it, and then move forward. And that's kind of what our ambition was. And the other thing that I think we found was really important is I work with a number of large corporate organizations, and the reality is that the world of careers is changing. I think we all recognize the reality that you may not have a lifelong career like you might have had, or like your grandparents and those there before you had. And now you have to be entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial in order to succeed. So we really believe fundamentally that self-made is about being self-made in every area of your life. So whether that is having a career and taking charge and taking hold of your career and making it the best that it can be, or whether that's being within your organization, but looking at it and saying, actually, although I'm employed within this organization, it is a business. And therefore, if I look at it as a business and as my own business and take ownership, I will be able to take that information and make that business better and therefore be worthy of that promotion or that opportunity or create my own project within the context of my organization. So we really believe that entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship is the future. And so for us, this book was really to provide that level of insight into what to do and how to do it.
Excellent.
Is there anything else you want to add about the book? No? Okay, so we thought, it's all well and good us being up here, but we wanted to kind of give you a bit of more of an insight into some of the things that we think are important in business. So within the book, we have 12 chapters, as I said, about the different stages of business. But we also have interviews with industry experts within the book too, because it's not just our perspective. It's about providing that industry perspective. So we have RBS in there, illustrating the RBS Group, illustrating the banking side of business, so how to set your business up in the right way from the outset with a bank account and so on. We have Nominet, also known as .uk in there. So Nominet are the business that own .uk, .co.uk, .org.uk, all the .k.uk domains. And they're talking about how to build an online business, because the reality of business now is actually a lot of business isn't going to be face-to-face. Sometimes, or most of the time now, you're going to have an online presence in order to really get through those doors and to build your reputation and credibility. And when we also have a trademark lawyer, who we're going to bring on the stage in a second, who talks about the importance of protecting your brand and how to really make sure your brand is ready for the wide world, and so that no one can hijack your brand and take it over when you're not looking. And so that's the sort of things we wanted to bring into the book, to really provide a really good and stable illustration of what you should be doing, how you should be doing it. So on that note, we'd like to welcome onto the stage our personal trademark lawyer, but also the gentleman that's featured in the book. Before I walk him onto the stage, I think it's important that I also mention how we met. So after I finished on The Apprentice, I had a bit of a trademark issue. Someone tried to hijack my name. Like literally registered Bianca Miller as their own name, even though that wasn't their name. You laugh now, at the time I wasn't laughing. So I remember reaching out to Lord Sugar and saying, look, I need some trademark help here. Can you help me? And he said, yeah, sure. I'll introduce you to my trademark lawyer. So Oliver is trademark lawyer to Lord Sugar, Warren Buffett, and us. So Oliver, I'd like to welcome Oliver to the stage. I love that he walked on with the drink.
This is number 5 for the night, so you can put it over there.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, I'm Oliver, the hired comedian for tonight. My name's Oliver, and Oliver O's, and I'm a trademark lawyer. And when Bianca and Byron were telling me about the book, I knew that it was something that I wanted to get involved in, because the book is targeted at the customers or the clients that I really like to represent. So ambitious, innovative startups and SMEs that want to build up their business and their brand, but they've got a shoestring budget, or they've got a tight budget to do it with. Usually when people think of a brand, they sort of, when people think of a business, the first thing they think of is, what am I going to call it? And that's where, they either try to Google names and see if there's any identical or similar trademarks out there, or they will call up a trademark lawyer and get some advice on, how to register their brand and protect it. So I represent Bianca and Byron with the various trademark issues that they have. Byron's more trouble than Bianca, to be fair, but we always succeed in whatever we do. So really,
Can you start by explaining what a trademark is?
Okay, so after 5 of those, I'm not sure whether this is going to work. But a trademark is basically it's a sign that you use in business that is capable of being represented graphically, and it's used to distinguish your goods or your services from those of other people. Therefore, you're after the people that work for you, and obviously yourself. Your trademark and your brand and your reputation are your most important asset of your business, because it validates the service that you provide and shows the consumer how credible you are, and it also imparts all your trust and trustworthy concept onto the consumer.
Yeah. So when you kind of look at big brands like Coca-Cola, for example, you'll see they've got a C?
The R in a circle.
Or the R in a circle.
Yep.
And that represents the trademark. And it's so valuable. And I think even when I started, I didn't realize the value of that trademark, and the fact that if someone else owns that trademark or a similar trademark, they just simply can't. You simply can't trade with the same name, and it's so valuable that if, for example, someone utilizes your trademark in an unfair way, what happens? How much do they get fined?
They get sued.
Yeah.
So the way it works is if you have a brand and you register that brand as a trademark, what a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs don't know is the importance and the value of a trademark, and how much power it gives you in the business world. When you register a trademark, that automatically entitles you to exclusive rights over not just that trademark, but also similar trademarks as well, for all of the services or goods that you have covered in that trademark. And if somebody uses an identical or similar trademark, you are automatically entitled to up to £500,000 worth of damages from that company. So if you see someone using a trademark that's similar to yours, it sounds quite brutal. You're not going to get many people sending you Christmas cards, when you do this. But you send them a letter saying, look, you're using a trademark that's identical or similar to mine. Here's my bank details. Here's my trademark. Can I have £500,000, please? And that is the way it goes. And on a very general level, that's how it works. And people don't realise that when they start a business, that they can have that commercial tool available to them.
Just to add, when we were looking at trademarks, I had no idea what it cost.
Yeah.
And I think people are scared by the costs or what they think it might cost. So can you just let everyone know what the costs look like to protect their brand?
Yeah. So if you register a trademark for your business, when you register a trademark, you have to protect it in relation to different categories of goods and services, and they're grouped into things called classes. So if you apply for a trademark in one class, it's only £170, and for that £170, you'll get a monopoly for the whole of the UK for that trademark in relation to those particular goods or services. If you divide that by 10, because the trademark lasts for 10 years, you're paying £17 a year to protect your trademark and have exclusive rights over it, and have the opportunity of monopolizing and dominating Google and social media in relation to that name.
Excellent. So that's just we thought it would be really interesting to just bring someone with us to kind of give you a bit of an insight into the book and some of the things that we cover in the book. But now we'd kind of like to open it up. So for anyone that has any questions about us, about the book, about their business and entrepreneurship in general, or of course about trademarks, then we're more than happy to answer those. So we've got Luke, who's kindly going to hand the microphone around. So if anyone has a question, please pop your hand up. Oh, we've got we've got two in the front.
Thank you so much, Bianca. I'm looking forward to reading the book. Thanks to both of you. Now, in relation to the question about trademark or copyright, I've got a book club that I started about a year ago, and 2 people so far have literally copied the content of it. So I was just wondering, obviously they've copied the content, but it's under their own name, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my question is there anything I can do in relation to copyright, trademark?
Yeah. So basically, the the intellectual property right that you're talking about is actually copyright, which protects your artistic, musical, dramatic, literary works. And if they've copied your artistic, your literary works, then you have a remedy. You could actually sue them for copyright infringement. And you again, with regard to copyright, it's not actually a registrable right. It's an inherent right. So as long as you could prove that you're the author or the creator of that content, then we're back in that £500,000 bracket where you can actually... you like the sound of that, don't you? It's fine. I can see it. So you could you could actually file a claim at the Intellectual Property Enterprise Court. It's called the IPEC, and the claim can be on the basis of copyright infringement, as long as you can show, and the test is that they've actually taken either the whole or a substantive part of your work, and they've reproduced it and they've communicated it to the public, or they've sold it. Then I think you're going to be having a nice holiday next year. But
how much does it cost though? Because that sounds like something that.
So what you should do is first you should always write a letter. You should always give somebody the opportunity to settle the matter outside of the courtroom. Sometimes you don't really want to just steamroll someone. You don't know about their personal circumstances, X, Y, and Z. You should send them a letter, which is called a letter before action, a cease and desist letter, which will be in accordance with the pre-action conduct regulations in the UK. Make sure you outline your claim, and make sure you show them evidence. If they've lifted your content, then show them evidence of that they've lifted your content and that you are the author of that work, and that you will sue them unless they sign the document that will be attached to that letter. And that document will say that they will have to pay your legal fees that you've spent to date, which will be just for writing a letter, and also some damages, which we can calculate, which could either be a licensing fee, or maybe you've lost sales because of that infringement. All right. I hope
Excellent. What was the next question?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you both for hosting tonight. I had a question about making the transition from full-time work to starting your own business. And my question is on a practical level, but more importantly on a mental level, because it's taking that plunge. How did you both go about it?
Yeah, I think we're very different in the way we approach this. My philosophy is very short-term to start with. So I look at how much do I need to survive. That was what I did. I said, okay, how much do I need to survive before things go wrong? So I kind of just took the plunge and said, I'm going to, start my journey of being an entrepreneur. I always had a part-time job when I was younger, but I never actually had a full-time job. I was always just, buying or selling, a car or whatever it might be. And we always have this conversation about when is the right time. I don't think there is such a thing as the right time. You just have to make sure that you're financially stable, that you're going to be able to survive for the next 3 to 6 months. And when I say we're quite different, Bianca and I, when I'm looking to recruit a member of staff for a new project, I look at the short term. So I say, okay, if their wage is £12,000 a year. I need £1,000 a month. So do I have £3,000? Can I cover their salary for the next 3 months? If their answer is yes, I take on that member of staff. And that's the way I just reverse engineer it. Whereas Bianca's probably a bit more cautious, and she'll say, okay, well, I need the full £12,000 before I can start that project. But that makes it more difficult because of access to finance. So I look at it in a very short term. Okay, 3 months. Can I make it work? Do I have enough information, product to sell £3,000 worth of product? If the answer is yes, I roll the dice and try and make it work.
And actually, I think we're not too dissimilar, actually, when you think about that idea of leaving your job. So when I decided to start the business, I remember working in recruitment from like 9 a.m. till 6 p.m., going home, having a bit of dinner, and then writing my business plan from 7 p.m. till midnight. And I did that for about 2 months until I felt I had a strong enough business plan and proposition to take that leap of faith. I didn't do what some people do, which is to have their job and start the other thing on the side. I didn't do that. I made a decision to leave, but I did have that survival budget mentality. So I had documented how much I needed to pay my half of the mortgage, my electricity bill, and so on. Those living costs, and to understand that picture of how much that costs for maybe 3 months, 6 months, and then how much do you need to keep going and to invest in the business, and kind of take it from there. And I guess mentally, I think sometimes you just know you've come to the end of what might have been a fantastic career in whatever you're doing, but you have, a lust, a desire, a passion for something else. And it's now about taking that desire and passion and documenting it and making it a strong proposition with a great sales and marketing plan so that you know that you can really make a go of it. And just think, what's the worst that can happen? I'm a true believer in investing your energy wisely. So you could think, oh gosh, it might fail. I might have this. What happens if this or that? But the reality is, the worst thing that happens is you take your CV and you go and get another job.
Yeah, get another job.
That's the worst thing that can happen. The best thing that can happen is you succeed beyond your wildest dreams, and you're really happy, and your business does everything you want it to do. So I wouldn't concentrate on the what ifs and just think about what I call kind of my deathbed contemplation, which sounds really morbid. But I think if I was on my deathbed tomorrow, would I look back and think, what if I tried that? What if? Would I have enjoyed it? What could have happened? I never want to look back and think, what if? I want to think, okay, it worked, it didn't work, I learned from it, I moved on. And I think that's an important thing a mindset to get into. No problem. Do you have any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, Bianca, Byron, Oliver, thanks for hosting tonight. I've got 2 questions. First question is, I'm going to set myself up as a consultant. Now, is the best way to set up as a sole trader or go straight for limited company? That's the first question. And then the second question is developing a business plan. What's the best way to go about it and looking at long term? I mean, I know I have got plans myself, but I haven't written them down to the nitty gritty. So just what your thoughts were on
what type of consultancy?
It will be basically property. So because my background's in property. I'm an ex-estate agent and a lettings agent, so I'll source properties. But obviously, if other areas come into it, so I'll go into a business and they want to improve their sales and marketing.
So usually I would say, a limited company is a good way to go. But because the nature of your business, you don't need a huge amount of protection. It's not necessarily required. But I always find a limited company always protects yourself really well. And it also gives you access to other elements, including funding as well. And then even just down to your insurance, your public liability insurance, it makes it a lot easier. But that's my preference with most projects. But because it's property, you don't have that much liability unless what you're going to be advising people has a big risk. I would probably say limited company would be my preference, but it's not essential.
I agree. I think limited company, I think the fact that you've got the limited liability, it makes it easier to open a bank account, it makes it easier to do a lot of things, and it helps with credibility. So when you're approaching some people, they would prefer to see that you have a limited company as opposed to just being kind of a one-man band sole trader. So I think limited,
I think that just from the point of view of just being the trademark guy here, I think that a lot of my clients that are estate agents or they're in property, I think if you're dealing with property, you're dealing with you're dealing with big money, and sometimes property is a very, someone's most important asset. So, when you're facing a client, they want to see that they're dealing with probably a limited company to be the face of your business. That would be the best thing to do. But in terms of security, I'm not trying to teach you dodgy moves or anything like that, but a lot of no, it's legitimate. So in terms of your brand, you're going to have a property company, and you're going to have an estate agent, and your aim is to grow. You want to be a Foxtons, or you want to be a Farron Sataria, or whatever there is out there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Luke, can you give him back the mic? Sorry.
The only difference between the estate agents and letting agents who have their own premises and something that I do is that they've got that limited backing. Otherwise, we do the similar sort of job. So I was just looking because I've only just launched it.
Yeah.
But I've got someone that wants to come on board. Yeah. And I'm thinking if I take him on board, then it might be a good idea to go to the limited route rather than just as a sole trade or partnership.
Well, I guess that, from my point of view, is just looking at if I was your business advisor and you were building a brand, if you started up by yourself, I would say set up the limited company, because in the end you have to have uniformity in your name. You have to own your company name. The trademark has to be the same name as your company. The domain name has to be the same name as all of those. Your social media handles, all of that stuff has to be uniform anyway. Even if you're not really trading out the limited company. I'm not an accountant, and if there's any accountants in here, you can shoot me for this. But even if you don't use the limited company, you can still file dormant accounts. It's just putting a zero, and then pressing send on company's house or whatever it is. But at least you own the limited company. And then what you can do is you can have the trademark. You can license your trademark to the company. And then obviously if you're invoicing clients, they're going to want an invoice from a limited company, because that builds your credibility and your trust. And you'll have to have insurance as well. And then what you can do, because you're licensing your trademark to your company, obviously you can pay yourself a license fee or a royalty or whatever you want to call it. You can give yourself a drink out of the company by a license fee for a trademark. But as you say, later on down the line, you're going to have investors coming in, and they're going to want a share in the company. So if they want a share in the company, then they need to have a share in all the company assets. And the trademark is going to be your most important company asset at the time. So that will then have to be transferred from you into the company, and that will have to be a company asset, because they will have to own it. Because you're going to start having apps and stuff like this, and it's,
I like that he's created your whole business plan for you. Your second concern was the business plan.
We'll talk later. Yeah, we'll talk later.
So in answer to your business plan question, so chapter 1 is dedicated to business planning. There's lots of things you need to kind of concentrate on, but it is about understanding your target market, which clearly you already do, but it's now about understanding how you can implement a really good marketing and sales strategy and plan that really coordinates all of the aspects of what you're trying to do and makes it a cohesive business, and the brand's cohesive, and what your structure, how its structure works and so on. You want to make sure it's all nice, succinct, but you really understand the market.
Guys, thank you so much for writing the book and sharing your experiences. When you're at the beginning of the journey and you see successful entrepreneurs, it can feel like a great gulf between where you're at and where you're going. I guess my question is, what was a dark or a difficult point for you at the beginning of your journey, and how did you overcome it to succeed in your businesses?
I think for me, one of the moments was, I think maybe month, 6 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I think when I wrote my business plan, I did what most, I think, entrepreneurs do, which is to write a kind of millionaire business plan, in that, you know, you're going to be financially free in about 6 or 7 months, and you're, you know, never going to look back and so on. I think that's what most people do, because that whole cash flow planning thing it's just guesswork, to be frank, at the beginning. So I remember about 6 or 8 months in, realizing I wasn't, because I had staff in an office, I wasn't actually being able to pay myself as much as I had in my salary, and thinking, did I make the right decision in starting the business? But knowing, and the only thing that kept me going was knowing I was on the journey. I was making the right decisions. I was making the right moves. I was getting the right clients and the right attention. I just needed to continue, and I needed to get to my end goal, which, you know, I'm still working towards. My end goal is ever evolving. But I think it's that moment where you think, God, I'm not actually making very much money here, and I'm putting in a lot of time, a lot of energy. I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm not really seeing my friends and family. You know, all of that can be really quite I guess, disruptive, really, along that journey. But I think you always have to work with that end goal in mind. I think that's so important to really understand. That's what the business plan is for, in my opinion, is to have an end goal, to understand what you're working towards.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest challenges was when I was actually in university. I was dabbling in property, and I invested into an estate agent as a silent partner. And I was getting information that this wasn't doing so well as an investment. So I left university and went straight to work in the business, and I worked pretty much 12 hours a day. There was some information that wasn't passed on to me, which meant ultimately the business was going to fail. Then, of course, we had the credit crunch. So the business all folded pretty much. I sold my shares in the business, but the actual person who was buying my shares actually ended up stitching me up. So I ended up with no business. I ended up with, all I had was a credit card, and that was it. And I invested all my money into this business, and I didn't know where to go. And I think for me, the way I overcame it is I'm a solutions man. I like to think of what is the solution here? And it was, okay, well, biggest problem I had whilst working in the estate agency was I spent so much time working, waiting for different engineers. So I would wait for a surveyor, I would wait for an electrician and so on. And I can wait at a property for a whole day. So what I did was I made a company. It was called BLC Property Services. And we was a service provider. So we did EPCs, floor plans, photography, gas certificates. We did everything. It was a one-stop shop. I qualified as an energy assessor, and I was able to fulfill many of these surveys myself. So we grew from just myself and a small box to one of the largest providers of this survey in the southeast of England. And for me, the way I overcome difficulties, I just like to find solutions. Because in business, there are some sharks out there. And if you're getting into property, it's the biggest industry where there's a lot of sharks. So in business, there's going to be so many challenges. One day is good, the next day is not. But the way I just like to look at it is it's just the world that we signed up for. You just have to get on with it and try and find a solution. So that's the way I deal with it. Okay, here's the problem. What's the solution?
Lady behind you, I think.
Hi. My name is Erica, and my company is Kushti Cosmetics. The question I have to ask is, this day and age with media and social media, we need to acknowledge it. And it seems that the number of followers and it seems to basically show, it has an artificial way of showing that your business is worth something, even if it's necessarily not, or the service or whatever. I want to ask you a question in regards to the social media. How important you think it is, and the best way, if it is important, to build it up in a way that can actually be useful for you and go forward in regards to business and help you. Because I know there's ways where you can purchase 1,000 or 2,000 followers, but if you purchase them, they're not going to result in consumer sales or anything like that. So you're just paying for the look. Is the look worth it? Is it worth paying for the look, or is it worth going in for the real followers? And how is the best way to do that?
So I think so. Don't buy them is the first answer. And I know it's tempting because I think you can look at other brands and think, oh wow, they've got such a big following. You know what? And then you get an email which you get daily that says buy 100,000 for £100 or whatever, and you're like, oh. But the reality is they're not authentic followers. They're not actually going to part with any money. And the premise of what you're offering from the perspective of selling cosmetics is that people buy it, right? So if you're going to have 100,000 followers and only 10 of them are real, then it's kind of a waste of time because you now feel good, but it's not affected your bottom line in any way. So, you know, one of the things that probably frustrates me the most, not the most, I think that's a bit of an extreme statement. I'm going to take it back. One of the things that does frustrate me is when I go out and I meet people. For example, I was at a beauty conference and there was this beauty influencer there and he had 200,000 followers, but £0 in his bank. Yeah. And I think you have to really think about what's most important. Is it having followers and being socially famous or Insta famous or whatever that fame is? Or is it actually knowing that you have a credible business that makes money? And I think it's more important that you have less followers, but those that are engaged and are willing to work with you and buy from you and respond to any surveys or comments or focus groups or whatever you have, then have lots and lots of followers. I have a decent level of following, but in reality, my following isn't what some people's following is, but we have people in the room today, right? So you have to now weigh it up, you know, how important is that? And how do you make it work for you? The answer is to keep putting out really great content. You know, you might feel now that it's really frustrating, but if you keep putting good content out there, eventually the right people will follow and the right people will engage and the right people will buy. And it's about understanding that audience and creating content that is relevant to that audience to keep them engaged and keep them buying.
Yeah, I mean, I echo that. And I think even for myself, I'm not really on social media, but I have a huge LinkedIn presence. You know, just short of 20,000 connections is what I have on my LinkedIn. So there are people that I engage with and who I have, you know, their access in terms of details and so on. So I wouldn't focus so much about it. I understand your product. And what I would say probably is if you're struggling to grow your social media following and you're putting out good content, if you've got a plan and it's not working, then I would look at working with some influencers in terms of having them promote your product for you. And then let their audience be the ones that engage and then come back to you and buy and build your audience that way. Yeah. So look at working with some influencers potentially.
Hi.
1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah. Hello. Good night. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Cole, for inviting me tonight. Right. I haven't read your book yet. And I'm looking forward to reading it.
Oh, no.
But I'm just wondering, do you have a particular chapter in there that covers collateral?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Say, for instance, is there a way of, say, for instance, one, be able to get a business loan or, yeah?
You're talking about adding value?
No.
Finance.
I'm saying, say, for instance, finance.
Okay, yeah.
Because, yes, the government have schemes, say, for instance, for the particular ages. Yeah, not like myself, who's 21, but, you know. Right, say, for instance, you're of age, you won't be able to get a loan, etc., etc. Is there a way of you getting a loan, a business loan, from a bank or an investor without having collateral?
Yes. So in the book, we have a chapter, we call it 6 of the Best. It just talks about accessing finance and funds. And we hear this every day. People talk about, you know, the lack of access to money. I think you're just looking in the wrong place. Yeah, because people invest in businesses based on an idea. And I guarantee you, I can create a business tomorrow on the back of a piece of paper and go to 5 people who I know will be interested in it, and they're going to back it. I have zero collateral. It's in my brain. Yeah, but you're just looking in the wrong place. Yeah, that's all it is. You just don't have the access and information that you need to get the right funding.
Or you're not packaging it in the right way.
The funding, the money is out there.
There are loads of people that are willing to part with money, you know, for the right deal. try and go on The Apprentice.
That doesn't work. I didn't get it.
But you have to be prepared of what it's all about what you're prepared to give somebody else. Because if you look at, for example, Lord Sugar or someone like that, and the whole apprentice scheme, he'll give you 250k, but he's taking half of your money, and he's going to sit there, and you're going to have to go into that boardroom, every 2 weeks and just explain how much money you've made him. And that's it. It's all about how much you're prepared to give away as well.
And you do have collateral because you have the business. So once you have your business plan, you have your limited company, you can decide if you want to give away equity or shares in your business in return for that investment. If you're looking at an investment proposition, you can look at crowdfunding, you can look at bank loans, you can look at government schemes and funding. There's so many ways to do it. And as he said, as Byron said, there's 6 in the book of the best, but there are lots of other ways to do it. And there's, There's another question. I think someone has already got the mic. I know you guys at the front are waiting. You'll be next. Yes.
So, hi, good evening to both Byron
evening.
and Bianca, and also for Oliver. Thank you for the insight on the trademarking.
Nice.
I have a very simple question. It's a bit naive as well. I don't have a business background. I've had many ideas and concepts for many years just rattling around in my head. I haven't written them down. I've done nothing with them. How do you actually get started? How do you go from just that idea to it just kind of coming to fruition or turning into something? Because my mind keeps telling me I haven't got a business background, so I shouldn't do it. But I'm sure there's people who don't have business backgrounds who have successful
There's
businesses.
loads of people have been successful.
But it's just
or
that kind of getting past that barrier of there's supposed to be a specific route or way of doing it that I have no idea about. I feel I have no idea about. So could you just give any advice on how to just get the idea out of my head, so to speak?
Without trying to sound like I'm trying to sell you the book, there's this book, right? It's called Self-Made, and it's $14.99. Honestly, the reason why we wrote the book was for people like yourself who have a great business idea, but really just don't know what to do and what steps to take. Yeah. And it really is about getting the idea down. You do have to, at some point, submit the idea to paper and choosing your best idea. So it sounds like you have a few. You need to choose one that you feel is the most compelling, has the best opportunity to be successful. Do the research and really make sure. One of the biggest issues I think people face when they're starting a business is not really understanding the problem versus solution scenario. So you might think there's a problem. You've come up with a business idea because you think there's a problem and you want to solve it. So that's fine. But now you need to make sure that it's a problem for someone else other than yourself. And that's the biggest issue. I meet so many entrepreneurs that are like, oh yeah, I've solved the problem. You're like, well, who else thought that was a problem? Like, no one else, just you. So it's not a business anymore. It's not viable. So it's about understanding the problem, working on a solution, looking at what else is out there that provides a similar solution, because realistically, there's no new business ideas. Someone's already done it, but you just need to think of a more innovative way to do it. And now it's about committing that idea to paper, creating a plan, doing the research, and getting going. Even if it is small scale, even if it is on the side, you kind of have to do it. I don't think everyone's a born entrepreneur. I think most young people are quite entrepreneurial. I think it kind of gets taken out of you at some point when the world says go and get a job. But realistically, you probably have it in you. It's now about working it through, working it out.
And just to add to that, we hold a monthly mastermind session. So I think we've got some of our mentees here. So put your hand up, anyone that's here. Yeah. So just speak to the ladies about what it's like, and if it will be of any help for yourself. But I think definitely if you join us on one of our sessions, it will be a lot of help.
I think also there's an element of fear inside you. It has to be said. I think you need to talk to people that are positive and that are there to motivate you as well, because sometimes there are people around you. They could be family, and when people give you negative vibes about your dreams, you take them on board. Whereas if you speak to entrepreneurs or people that have the same vision as you, they could motivate you in another direction. And sometimes you've just got to wake up and just roll the dice and say, look, this is what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to do it because like myself, I had a business idea. I thought it was a bit wacky. My mum, this is my mum, she would always say, don't do it. You got a job, keep the security, don't go out there and take the risk. And, who listens to their mum, do you know what I mean? So obviously you're just going, even more so to go in the other direction. But if you believe in your product and you believe in your service and you do your homework, and you have that USP and you can go in there and you're going to make a difference in the marketplace, then I would just say do it. But, like you said before, as long as you can be comfortable for that 3 to 6 months and you're willing to take that hit, live on bread and water, non-alcoholic beer or whatever it is, do it, because you're going to be dwelling on what ifs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the worst thing is when you see someone else with your idea and you're like, oh my God, that was my idea. We've all had that.
Yeah.
Last question.
Mohammed, and I'm the founder of sort of an education business. So I sort of integrate games into literacy for children between in primary schools. I think so. The question I just wanted to ask was, in your business career, what has been your sort of biggest lesson that you've learned? And yeah.
Biggest lesson.
It's a good question. Can I be cheeky and have 2? Okay, fine. Oh, sorry, guys. All right, so I think number 1, I think, is personal branding. I'm not saying that just because I'm the personal branding expert, but because I think your credibility and your story is so important. And I think people often overlook the importance of their journey and their story in creating a business. It's such a valuable story, and it's about utilizing your story, your journey, to make other people understand why you wanted to do it and how you wanted to make a difference using that. But it's also about building that credibility that then follows you. So if you give someone a great service, that's part of your personal brand. They enjoy the service, they go and tell someone else. That results in a referral. Referral marketing is probably the cheapest marketing you'll ever have, right? So it's perfect. So you want to make sure you've got a personal brand that people believe in you, they're invested in you, they want to help you, and then when they work with you or they get a service or a product from you, it's the best, and they need to tell someone else. They feel compelled to tell someone else. That whole personal branding piece is so important, and that feeds into my second one, which is networking. So I genuinely believe that your net worth is your network is your net worth, because honestly, the people I've met along my journey have helped me, and I've helped them get to where they are. And I think that if you can't overlook the importance of networking. The more people you know, the more people you meet, the better. The greater impression you have on them, the more likely they are to go and tell someone else about you. All of that feeds into it. And that's online and offline for your personal brand and your networking. And I think it's crucial. I think the opportunities I've had, getting into Topshop, QVC, department stores, TV, clients, a lot of it has been about my personal brand. And a lot of it has been about networking. And I think those are my 2 strongest marketing tools from my perspective. So I think really important stuff.
Yeah, great question. I think for myself, it would be just repositioning myself, not being an employee of the company. So what I mean by that is not doing the service that we're offering. So if you're tech, not to be the guy that does all the tech. Because what I found was by being almost a business development manager or director, whatever you want to call yourself, I was able to take a step back and look at what's happening in the business and push the business forward. Because I can always replace the technical side of things. I can always employ someone to do those things. But then no one else is able to drive the business forward in the way that I was able to do so. So I made that decision in one of my earlier businesses not to be the person out there doing everything, because you never really get a chance to develop and grow your business. You're always just chasing your tail. You never really get a chance to push your business forward. So I think that's probably one of my lessons that I've learned and one of the things I do now. So whenever I start a new project, I always just business development, and I have the team that have their own individual roles and tasks. You're welcome.
Okay, so Just a few things we wanted to mention, just in case you wanted to do more with us. So we have a monthly mastermind, which Byron referred to earlier on, which is essentially an opportunity for you to come to an intimate session, which is about 14 people in a room talking about their business and learning about how to further their business ambitions. So we're basically taking the book, we're taking all the content of the book and we're bringing it out, we're putting it into live form, but in a small room where you can ask questions and network with like-minded people. Because like Oliver said, it's so important the people you surround yourself with whilst you're on that journey and whilst you're improving upon your business. So as Byron said, we've got a few of our mentees in the room today, not because we forced them, but just because they like coming to our events. We're not really sure why. They just do. So, and what's important about someone, they'll tell you themselves, you know, they're 3 months into the kind of mentoring journey, and so much has changed for them in a small amount of time, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you can't see what you need to know or what you need to find out because you're too into the business. You're so concerned about the kind of detail, but you haven't had a chance to look outside and see what it's like from an external perspective. You know, what do people really see when they interact with you? How could you interact with them better, and so on. So we have mastermind sessions on a monthly basis. They're £45 to come. 2.5 hours in a room with Byron and I, and we diagnose and we talk about different business ideas and different issues that you might face, or £99, including a one-to-one with either of us as well. So that's one thing to really think about if you're interested in continuing your self-made journey. And also we have...
if you are interested in mastermind sessions, just speak to Corey. He's just there on the stairs. So have a word with him, put your name down. If you want to have another conversation with us, whether it's right for you or not, just let us know.
And we also are bringing Brian Tracy to the UK in September. So a few people nodded, so that's good. Has everyone heard of Brian Tracy? Everyone, oh, okay, I like this room. This is a good room. So for those of you who don't know, Brian Tracy is the number one personal development and sales guru in the world. He has something like 75 books that he sold 85 million copies of. So clearly he knows something. He's getting on now, so he's 74. I keep getting the age wrong. I think 74-ish. And his wife has said he needs to stop traveling around the world speaking at 4 countries a week. So this is probably the last time he comes to the UK. But what I think is really important about this is Brian and I have been a fan of Brian Tracy for years, because I think what he provides, which is different to most speakers, is information. I think there's a lot of speakers that people are familiar with, like the Les Browns and the Tony Robbins of the world, who are great speakers, but they provide you with motivation, right? You're here because you know you want to do something, or you're here because you started something. So now you need to understand the steps to take to make that thing even better. And I think that's what he provides. You're going to say something? No. I felt like you were moving. Okay, and so we have, we're bringing him to the UK in September. It's called Maximum Achievement 2.0. We've both been to see him. We went all the way to Riga to listen to this talk, so you don't have to do that. You only have to go to Houston. And literally, he will break down for a whole day, 9 a.m. till 6 p.m., and it'll be the best day of your life. And he literally will, and I say that genuinely because I think it has changed how I look at my business, and I think I'm quite savvy. But it's changed the way I look at my business, my goal setting, and my client interaction, my money orientation, all of that. And so I think it's another really important opportunity. So again, if you're interested, we've got some leaflets around somewhere, and Corey is the man to speak to, as well as us, of course. So that's it in a nutshell. So thank you. Oh, I did have some amazing slides about what the Brian Tracy thing is, but this is really small. So just go to selfmadebook.uk and you can see lots more information about the Brian Tracy experience. But one quick thing before we let you go. We'd just like everyone to take their phones out, please. You know what's coming. I mean, this is a competition after all, and you're a captive audience. So we just like you to vote for Self-Made. We're currently in 2nd position, and we just don't do second. I mean, that's just not how it goes. And the website is bigread.london. And if you could just go on bigread.london and then find the book. It's called Self-Made. It's a nice yellow and white book, and there's a gold...
No reception.
Well, luckily, there's 2 options. We have the Wi-Fi code, which is Library 2015 is the Wi-Fi code. We thought of this. We thought ahead. And the second thing is we've sent you all a lovely email thanking you for coming. and suggesting that you might want to vote. So that is in your inbox too. But yeah, genuinely, obviously, if you've enjoyed the experience, of those of you who have read the book, we really would genuinely appreciate your vote. If you buy the book tonight and you'd rather have a read of it first, have a read, but you have until the 31st to submit a vote, so please do. But thank you very much for coming, and we'll both be here to sign any books you would like us to sign as well. So thank you again. Thank you.